Summer Lilyth isn't just the UR version of everyone's favorite Leonis general, she's also debatably the more PG version of Lilyth in the game right now. But that's not a video that I'm ever going to make, so let's take a look at her kit instead. Summer Lilyth is a new 80 cost UR unit with the Ranger main job. She also has the sub-jobs Dual Gunner and Paladin, which means she's going to be able to pack some offensive power while also being able to take a few hits. So as an Earth Element unit, she's going to pair well with the recently released Zazan as well as the recently EX'd Ketone. And finally, as a missile unit, there's lots of different compositions that she can work in with other missile units. She also has a base jump of 2, which is definitely valuable, and her master ability will make Barrage a 100% hit attack, which sounds really nice to hit these full evade teams all at once. She also gets 10% agility from that master ability. Her TMR is a powerful but very limited accessory, so it's going to give you a 1-turn duration buff that will give you some attack and 2 range, and she really needs that 2 range, but the fact that it has that 1-turn duration makes it a really hard sell over something like Lucia's TMR that gives you 1 range and agility, but for 3 turns. Let's take a look at Summer Lilyth's stats. They're pretty decent for a UR missile unit. She has the same attack as Frederika at 416, and her agility is lower than Frederika at 64, but it's actually pretty high for a lot of units, and it's higher than WViktora when she gets her EX. She also has high HP for her role at 3000, and her dex is very high, and this means that she's going to have good accuracy, but it also means that she'll be able to critical hit more reliably, although her innate critical hit is pretty low. We can also take a look at 115 versus 120 and decide whether or not we need to take her all the way to the max level. And at 120, she does get a lot. So she gets 3 agility, and whenever we get agility, that is a significant change. That's a big deal. She also gets 386 HP, and I think that's a significant amount. Considering that she's going to be a unit that wants to take a hit and survive, I think every little bit of HP you can get is important. Now, her attack doesn't jump up that much. It's only plus 24, but that's still something. And then finally, her job level 25 skill is very good. It's definitely a game changer. It's something that you're going to need. So what does that mean? You're going to have to take Lilyth to 120. When we look at resist, she's weak against wind, strong against lightning, yada yada. It's the usual thing. But it does make for a good missile mirror match because a lot of missile units are lightning. Now, her damage resists are pretty wonky, to be honest. She gets 15% to pierce and then 15% to missile, and that's added through her EX job. But she's weak to the most common damages, which is slash and magic. She has a negative 15% to slash and a negative 10% to magic, and that's a pretty big deal breaker in my opinion. Like that's honestly like don't pull this unit territory, but there might still be a way to salvage her yet. She also has stop resist and then blind resist as her 50%, so that stop resist is definitely very good. The blind's a little more niche, and then slow resist at 10%, that's good. That's a solid resist to have. I mean, it helps, so definitely that all looks good to me. Now we'll take a look at her passives, and I'm just going to recommend the 2 that I think you should use. So Ranger Lore gets upgraded with her EX boost, and it's going to give her another 12 defense and then 15% missile resist. They definitely want to push Lilyth to be this bulky unit that's going to counter Fred and Nivlu and eventually counter the Cloud sub Ranger, although he's still going to slash her in half. But otherwise, I would also use tune-up for the agility and 40% defense penetration. If you want to, you could get tankier with the Paladin subs Holy Knight protection, but honestly, I don't recommend that. I think it's pretty simple. Go tune-up and go Ranger Lore. For her counters, there's really no other option besides Reflex. It's just the best counter in the game, and you definitely want to be using it. So I'm going to do something a little bit different here. I'm not going to go over the full kit. I'm just going to tell you what I think is important. So we have our typical Ranger kit here. Sharpshoot and Barrage are your bread and butter, as is the upgraded Mega Charge, which now costs less AP, has no charge time, and it absorbs 30% of the damage done. It's the perfect way to recover that HP you lost, since Lilyth is going to be tanky maybe. And then for TP skills, you're at a little bit of a loss here. You just have your vigilance, and it's not good. Like, you're going to have some trouble generating AP for all of your skills. However, you don't really need Ranger sub on this because you usually have Ranger sub for Sharpshoot, but now you have Barrage, you have Mega Charge for that single hit. You can go on to other sub jobs, and that's going to be pretty big for her. So she's also going to get a job level 25 skill, which is a negative 30 defense break and a 15 defense buff for herself. This is a very powerful AoE. It's basically a mini version of Nivlu's Limit Burst, but you can use it 3 times and it's buffing your defense. So it looks good for sure. It's definitely something worth going all the way to job level 25 for. Now, since we have some extra room to go onto her sub jobs, we could use Dual Gunner like purely for Smokescreen alone, just to give you that 20 defense. And I do think that's important to get, even though her new 25 skill is going to give you 15 defense, because it's something that you apply before you go into battle. So if somebody hits you before you can use your new skill, or if she doesn't even use it, you don't have that defense yet. So Smokescreen might actually be a very powerful skill for her. If that's the way you want to go, then you also have access to Quadruple Shot, and that's going to help you out with some chaining. Otherwise, we can look at Paladin, and you get Immortal Spirit. That's the best. Immortal Spirit is awesome. It's going to be really good for AP generation as well as not dying. Sentinel's also very useful. So really, it's kind of a toss-up between if you want to use the Ranger for Sharpshoot for that single target 100% hit, if you need Smokescreen, or if you just want to go that safe route with the Paladin sub, and that's the way that I personally would lean, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Now, finally, we got to talk about the Limit Burst because it's very, very cool. So it's fantastic. You get a Missile Imperil, you get an Immobilize, and you get a large 200% modifier. Definitely level it up if you're going to use it because you want all the Imperil that it can provide. And again, it's giving you a hint that you want to use her with other missile units. And I really do think that that's important. And again, I'm alluding to something I'll talk about later. So looking at this kit and her TP skills, Lilyth is somebody that really wants to equip Ziza's bells, and that's possibly going to be a problem for her. Let's take a look at a few other ranged units and compare them to Lilyth. So compared to Frederika, who also has a negative 15 slash resist, Lilyth looks pretty solid. She's a little bit slower, she has less utility, she has a little less mobility without the ninja sub, but you know, she's gonna pump out a lot of damage nonetheless, and Lilyth takes the edge in my opinion with that defense penetration on her passives. Frederika has the innate missile resist penetration as well, but that's kind of a matchup thing. Not everyone's gonna be stacking missile resist, but I think people do put on a lot of defensive gear. So an important note also is Frederika's element, which just gives a big edge to Be Lightning as a missile unit. You have other units to synergize with. You have the Frederika's Dream VC, the Curl VC, and you have just these master abilities that are going to power you up, or they're just going to be other missile units that will give you buffs. So I do think that brings her up a little bit higher than Lilyth as a missile unit, but Lilyth is still pretty good. So we can also compare her to WViktora, and they have very similar stats, and they have the same sub jobs, but Lilyth wins because she has Immortal Spirit, and Viktora has Saintly Wall, and I think that's a little bit better. Now, Viktora does get way more utility on her sniper job, and honestly, I'd rather have WViktora at EX 120 than I would have Lilyth, but again, it doesn't mean that Lilyth is necessarily bad. So when you think about how easily Frederika would die from any attack, she's not someone that you're meaning to take a hit. It's weird to complain about Lilyth's resists, but we are complaining about them because they're really ridiculous. But Frederika has something that Lilyth doesn't, and that is range. Concentrate gives +2 range compared to Lilyth only getting +1 from her passive. Frederika also has aimed fire for another +1 range, and that also gives you a healthy 38% buff to your missile attack. That's going to help Frederika stay out of the action and away from everybody else and, you know, fire at a distance. Lilyth would love to have a partner in any of her compositions that it's going to cast aimed fire on her if possible. So let's talk pros and cons for Summer Lilyth. For the pros, she has high HP, she can stack a lot of defense, and I think that means that she will be able to take a hit from physical attackers, even if they are slash attackers, although maybe not even Cloud. With the elemental resist, maybe she can, but he's going to be so strong, and he has both slash resist, break, and defense penetration. So otherwise, she has great missile and pierce resists. 100% hit barrage is no joke. It's really good against full evade teams, and the defense break is going to be good for all of her teammates. But the cons, they're pretty strong. So low range means that she wants Lucia's TMR, but then poor AP generation means that she needs bells. And then bad slash and magic resist. it's just hard to come back from that. So stacking defense is also not going to help at all against magic, and there's lots of magic out. She gets caught in an AoE because she's closer, because she doesn't have range, and she's just going to die. She's going to just fold, and that's not good. She's very map and team dependent. You want to have other gunners with her to cast aimed fire, or other people to just buff her up in general. And if you have like a tall map where you start up really high, that'll be great for her. But if you have a short map, or if she has to climb uphill, that's going to be a massive problem for her. So there has to be a lot going in her direction for her to do well, and that's honestly the biggest concern for me. So my verdict is going to be this is a skip. I don't think that her pros outweigh her cons. I think there's just too much work to be done to get her to be a successful unit. Now that doesn't mean I don't think that she could be successful, again, in the right team with the right setup. It's just a lot of work, and for the general player, I don't think that that's worth going for a limited unit when we have FF7 coming up and we have other cool units on the horizon. So for most players, she's going to be a skip. But if you like her, if you like her aesthetic, if you like her kit, then you do you enjoy the game that you want to. And I might actually go for her just because I really like the 100% hit barrage. I think that's so cool. I don't know how I'm going to set her up so that she has a bit of range and AP. Luelle giving her some AP via one of her skills is actually a kind of a cool thing that I might want to try out. But overall, I just can't recommend her to the general player base. Now, we might see something like when we got Luelle, or when we had the winter units early, or late, sorry, that there's some really good deals that make it super easy to acquire these units. And if there are, then that might actually change a lot of people's opinions. If it's easy to grab her and build her up, then you know what, we have lots of time, you can do that. That's great. But overall, just, blanket statement without knowing what the banners look like, this is a skip. All right, that's going to be it for this video. Let me know what you thought. Did you like how I kind of skipped a lot of the bulk of the kit just to talk about what I thought was important? Did I miss anything? Don't say I forgot it. I skipped it on purpose. Otherwise, I'm going to see you in the next video, so don't forget to join us on Discord in our War of the Visions channel, subscribe to this channel in general, and then we'll see you all in the next one.